Welcome to today's episode of Resiliency the Podcast. Today's guest is a senior executive with more than 25 years of sales leadership. He's helped companies like Oracle, PayPal, AT&T, and Salesforce, just to name a few. Now he's an award-winning keynote speaker, and he's a consultant in the sales transformation space. And listen, guys, his list of accolades is really impressive. He's been named one of the top innovators and entrepreneurs. He's been named one of Black leaders worldwide. He was in 2023 one of America's best speakers from Selling Power magazine. And he received a Lifetime Achievement Award for sales enablement. And that's from Selling Power magazine as well. Now, the list really goes on and on. This is a man who understands sales, okay? And that's really important to business. It's important to personal brand. But look, he's also an author. He's got a book out called Sales Enablement 3.0, and that is an Amazon bestseller. He keeps succeeding. His resilience is so impressive. He really embodies this from a business perspective. And then I'm going to come out of left field for you guys, listeners, because this episode's not even about all of this wonderful sales success and resiliency. Because you see, my dear listeners, today's guest has a new book that's about to come out, and it's called Stroke of Success. And in this book, today's guest is going to discuss his experiences of going through a stroke that nearly took his life. And really, more appropriately, it did take his life. But he fought his way back, not only from death, but from the physical tolls that a stroke can have on the mind and the body. And so I can't wait for you guys to meet him. Again, just through the lens of human resilience and business resilience. What a master. Please welcome Mr. Roderick Jefferson. Roderick, welcome to Resiliency the Podcast.
Thank you so much, Jen. I am incredibly honored and humbled to be here. And I'm taking you on the road with me. That's it. You're going to be my hype lady from now on. There's no way that I can open up a show without you. It just can't happen. I'm sorry, Seth. We're going on the road.
Listen, I'm in on the gig, Roderick.
Let's do it.
Let's partner up for life. Right before we started, he said, "You guys want to dance?" I said, "Yes, I'll dance with you, Roderick, all day."
Oh, let's dance.
Wow, Roderick, in Jen's intro and in getting to know you a little bit better, you really embody the vision of bounce back. Resilience for us means a number of different things, but one of the core tenets is bounce back. And I think that we're going to learn so much from you today, but I would like to ask you, what does resilience mean to you?
Oh, great kickoff question. It depends upon the situation. For me, resiliency means I refuse to give up and quit. And we've got a standard statement and belief in my house. I've got 2 kids, and our statement is Jeffersons don't quit, no matter what. It's not an option. Look, that doesn't mean that we don't fail. We just don't quit. So to me, resiliency means no matter what's going on, nothing's impossible. Everything is possible. Some things are probable. And you've got to put in the work to figure out the difference between the two.
I really love that because you talk about we don't quit, but we also give ourselves permission to fail. And
Absolutely.
So many people equate failure and quitting as one and the same, but they're so fundamentally different, as Jen, we have heard over and over and learned over and over again. So what a great takeaway for our audience.
It also includes giving yourself and granting yourself grace, because the problem is, as humans, we're always striving for perfection, although we know perfection is impossible. So take that mindset and step back away from that and say, this is the best I've got. Some days I'm standing here in sweat saying, oh yeah, it's 2:00. I should probably brush my teeth. That's success on that day. Other days, and I put up my priorities on the wall right over next to me. My top 3 today that I'm going to do before I turn off my laptop. And the 4th one is always something personal, because we tend to forget about ourselves all too often.
I have to say that I think that's profound, because we do forget about ourselves, and more than that, even from a societal standpoint, we're almost expected to put ourselves last in so many ways. And I want to delve into this because we're going to get to your book, Stroke of Success, and to this really harrowing and amazing experience that you had. But I want for a minute, because a lot of our listeners are in the business community, whether they are leading corporations, they're leading their own self within their self companies. And I want to ask, leading up to this, because I can only imagine the story you're about to tell us about this death experience is something that changed your life. But prior
absolutely.
to that, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. But prior to that, you said Jeffersons don't quit. You've got 2 kids and you taught them that. So I want to know, before your life-changing transformation as a sales leader, how did you teach them or yourself to handle that failure and look at yourself with grace? That's an impressive, resilient skill.
Thank you.
And I want to know, did you have it before this thing you're going to tell us about?
Yeah, it's always been a part of me. And again, I want to give an asterisk. There is a time in life where it's okay, and as a matter of fact, for self-perseverance to quit. People look at quitting as negative. I don't. Sometimes you have to do it for self-care and for self-preservation, or perseverance, excuse me. So to answer your question, yeah, it's always been there. How did I teach them? The best way that I know, show them. We've always had a very, very open relationship with the kids, right? We're not the ones that don't argue in front of the kids, don't talk about finances. My thing has always been, if I don't show them, how will they ever learn? Right? And we all know my mom had, and you'll hear me quote her quite a bit, and you'll see why later in the story, but she had a statement that sticks to my mind, and it goes this way: little pictures have big eyes. They see a lot more than we give them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And so the best way to say it was, yep, Dad lost his job. So here's what's going to happen, and here's how we're going to work to get back. Yep, Dad got sick. Here's how we're going to fight to get back. Yep, Mom's having a rough day and she's yelling at everybody. That's okay, but we're going to get through this thing. And so part of that was making sure that no matter what goes on, it does not overshadow the connection that you have to each other and to life.
I want to just repeat that. I think what I heard you say is, no matter what's going on, it doesn't overshadow the connection you have to each other and the connection you have to life.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, I think that couldn't be a better opening to Roderick. I think we're ready. We want to hear. Can you tell us and our listeners what happened on the day of your stroke?
Yes, absolutely. So I was in LA on a business trip doing a keynote. And the night before, I felt a little off, kind of tired, but I thought, you know what? Oh, I've been working out. I've been walking hills. We've been, preparing for the sales kickoff meeting. And that night I went to bed like every other night. And it's a night like never before. October 27th, 2021. So I woke up, and my wife's stay-at-home mom. Every morning we have a conversation. And what's going on with you? How are the kids? What's going on with your calendar? Here's what I'm doing today. But that day, in my mind, I was still explaining to her as clear as you hear me. But with her, all she heard was gibberish. And thank God she knew the protocol to walk me through. And she actually diagnosed my stroke over FaceTime from Northern California, and I was in LA.
Now, you
And
said
so
you're
the craziest part of all of this is I had my stroke while I was asleep. 98% of sleep stroke victims never wake up. I'm in that 2% club that actually woke up. And thankfully, she knew the protocol to walk me through it.
You're in a bigger club than that. You're in the 2% club who woke up, and you're probably in the 2.5% club whose significant partner knew what to do,
Yes.
knew what to see, knew how to act. So the 2% becomes even smaller. So
Absolutely.
aren't we, you grace us here, and aren't we lucky?
Thank you.
So you
Yeah,
said your
she's
wife
got to be up
saved-
for sainthood by now. Not only putting up with me for 35 years, but now that she has walked me through and literally saved me through my life, saved my life. How do I get upset about anything with her now? I'm
No,
like,
you don't.
yeah, but you saved my life. That's right. Okay. I get
Yeah,
it.
I
Shit.
know. You'll get over that at some point in time. You'll get over that, and that leverage will lighten down. But at the moment, let's give her lots of accolades. So maybe for our
Absolutely.
listeners, something that could help them. You said your wife saved your life by knowing the signs of a stroke, and we learn that the sign, it's F.A.S.T, that acronym, signs of a stroke. Could you explain that for our listeners to help them learn what that means?
Thank you for that. And absolutely. And this is something that I hope that every one of your listeners take, because as I've found out now is 1 out of every 4 people over the age of 25 will experience a stroke, either personally or someone in their circle. This was actually my second stroke, and I didn't realize it. The first one, I never even realized it happened years
Oh, my
ago.
word.
And it's why it's called the silent killer. So now for the FAST acronym. F stands for facial drooping. Ask that person to do something as simple as smile. Does one side of the face droop? Are they asymmetrical? If not, move on to the next one. And that's arm weakness. So ask the person to raise both arms and then hold one up and drop the other. Because you're going to find out now what side of the body is being affected by that stroke.
Okay.
The next is S, and that stands for speech difficulties. Ask the person to repeat a simple phrase. Is it hard for you to understand them? Is it hard for them to understand you? My wife asked me to count to 10. Oh, I've been doing that for 50 plus years. Here you go. 1, 2, 7, 28, 53, 75. And she said, okay, say the ABCs. I'm like, are you kidding? Sure, A, B, F, L, T, Z, W. And she's like, oh, not good. And at this point, she said, put me on FaceTime. I need to see you. Because she wanted to see if my face was drooping. Now, I didn't have the typical signs. I was not drooping. But now it leads to the last letter, which is T. And that's time to call emergency services right now. And here's why. If we can get the individual or yourself to emergency quickly enough, they can actually infuse you with a shot that will break up the clot and probably save your life. My problem was we didn't know what time my stroke was. It was outside of the window to be able to do that, so they were not able to administer that shot to me. What she did was at that point, she hung up, she called one of the folks I had part of my team there with me, and we were immediately called 911. We were in the emergency room, and they started in stroke protocol right away. Oh, but I wish that were the simple piece. When I got there, for some reason, now mine was based upon hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. I've got an enlarged heart. I was an athlete. Now I've got an excess layer of muscle, i.e. I got in too good of shape over life. Who gets to say that? All right. But they
Said
went
no
through
one
the
ever.
protocol for my heart, but they didn't for my brain. I was in and out of the emergency room in less than 2 hours because that was the day I was supposed to be flying home back to San Francisco. I flew mid-stroke from LA to Oakland. And the first thing, now bear in mind, I don't remember the first 3 days of being in the hospital at all. I don't remember getting on the plane. My team says I got on the plane and I just passed out. They kept literally checking to see if I was alive. And so I get to Oakland. They rush me to the emergency room. The first thing the neurologist and the cardiologist says to my wife is, medically, there's no reason this man should be alive. Because of 2 things. 1, air pressure and altitude. But more importantly, the human heart normally squeezes at 65 to 75% on average. When it gets down to 20%, cardiac arrest hits, you die. When they rolled me into the emergency room, I was at 22% heart function. And it just went down from there. I was actually doing okay, as stroke victims do. And then later, I'll tell you about what happened. I'd been there for weeks, and then suddenly I heard code blue in my room. I saw flashing lights, and I heard beep, 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 and I heard beep, and I was gone. Now, I could hear what was going on inside the room. Think about when you go to the dentist, and it feels kind of like twilight you can hear everything, but you can't really move or respond. So I heard the flat line. I heard the beep. Now I've floated up to the corner of the room. I'm looking down on the doctors and nurses. They're doing chest compression. They're sucking fluids out of me. And now suddenly they're rubbing the paddles. That is not anything you want for Christmas or birthday. Trust me. And I look over to the left and I see my mom. Now bear in mind, my mom died in 1999. This was only 3 years ago. And I said, okay, Mom, I guess I've done everything I was sent here to do. I'm ready to go. And I remember her words. This is the only thing I remember of those 3 days is, no, baby, I was sent here to tell you you're going to be okay. And you have to fight. Now I'm sucked back into my body. I'm lying flat. I'm looking up at the doctors, but I'm still flatlined. And I hear beep, 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 beep. And now I hear clear. No, we're not going to do this. Please don't do this. At the same time, miraculously, I was able to lift one arm. And they happened to be on the side of my body that was not impacted by the stroke. I reached out and I grabbed his hand on his way down to shocking me, to let him know, please don't, I'm here. But now, fast forward, I'm snowblind. Everything's white, not dark at this point. It looks like the sun's in my eyes all the time. I can't speak. I can't use my left arm, my left leg. And so they take me into protocol now for rehab. I had to go to speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, learn how to do my button on my shirt, learn how to use a spoon, learn how to stand up, how to walk. You figure it out. I had to relearn it all over again. Now, I will say this. I'm incredibly, incredibly blessed to not have the typical strokes, because most people think stroke. Oh, this person is now incapacitated. They're never going to be able to move. I never downplay my stroke, but I will say this. Over the last 3 years now, I have been able to get, as you can hear, I can speak again. I can use all full function. I'm able to see. And if I don't tell anyone that I've had a stroke, no one would ever know. But what you don't know is I take 18 pills a day just to stay balanced and be the guy that I am. And I will take them as long as it keeps me at this point. So to your listeners, I hope I've given you something that will either save your life or your loved ones or friends or someone in your network. Again, F.A.S.T. Please learn it. Please live it. Please love it.
Beautiful, life-altering, and really, I feel like I'm with you, as you talk through it. I have a question. I have 2, and they're kind of off-script questions, Roderick, but I want to ask. I felt it as you talked about. You heard the line go flat. You saw yourself. You floated up, and you looked over and you saw your mother. I want to know how you felt when you saw her.
The word that I always say is peaceful. I'll say it. I'm a mama's boy, no question. And for her to be the one of all of the ancestors that I've lost, for her to be the one that was sent to me was special. And it is a level of peace that I've never heard. Look, at 50 plus, we've got the glasses. We're not as clear as we used to be. I didn't have any glasses on. I saw the most vibrant blues, greens, yellows, reds, oranges in that room that I have ever seen in my life. And I looked over and she had the same purple muumuu that she always wore. She looked like my mom before she passed. And so for her to come at that time, it was peaceful. It was calming. I wasn't scared. I was ready. My only concern was how my family would be once I was gone. But I knew that I've got enough faith to know that they would be okay.
I think it's peaceful and safe.
Absolutely.
You felt safe for whatever was going to happen next.
Whatever was going to happen. I was with my mama. Whatever happened, I was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then what she said was really amazing, because she said, you have to fight. And I want to ask you if you'll talk to our listeners for just a moment about, because I can imagine that in that moment where you felt peaceful and safe and you see your mama in that beautiful purple moo and you know her and she tells you you have to fight, I can imagine that you could fight your way back. But then when you talk about that rehab, learning how to use a spoon, how did you use your mom's words, you have to fight back, when it came to the day-to-day, mundane, hard, difficult task of rehab?
I didn't have a choice. I know that I knew at the time I've got to get back. I knew that I wasn't going to give up, and I refused to let this win. And there were too many people that were watching. I had people calling on a daily basis, checking on me, FaceTiming me. And I've always believed that no matter what happens, there's a lesson. And I didn't know if the lesson was for me or for folks that were in my circle that were riding this journey with me. But I will say this, Jen, never once in my life have I ever said, why me? Never questioned why. I just know it was supposed to happen. So, okay, it's done now. I get two options. I either get to crawl up and in a ball in the fetal position, or I say, this will not win. Number one wasn't an option. And I don't think I'm a superhero. So let's not make it sound like, oh, this guy's come so far and he's done this. You know what? I did what needed to be done.
You know what you say? I gotta comment on that though, because Dr. Kelly and I talk a lot about superheroes and superpowers. We love the supers, and I agree with you, because I think, and Dr. Kelly, tell me what you think on this. But resilience, you may be a superhero and have your superhero costume, but really, resilience is the power. It is the superpower.
Yes,
and what I'm hearing,
that I agree.
and I'm hearing that Roderick Jefferson knows how to tap in. You know, like, and not only did you tap in that room, but then you tapped in every day while you were learning to speak again and not only learning to speak again, Roderick, let's talk about this for a minute. You didn't just learn to speak again. You became a keynote speaker. Okay. That's like someone who loses their leg and becomes a runner, right?
Yeah, kind of from stroke to stage.
Yeah. And I mean, so really there's a beat the odds kind of thing. So that really leads to the next question, I think, which is, what's the purpose? What's the purpose in your survival? We've heard your fight, but there's got to be more coming. What's your purpose in this survival?
My 4 F's, Jen: faith, family, friends, and fun. Everything else outside of that doesn't even impact me. Now I'm human, of course I get upset, but the whole road rage thing, or someone said this, or they didn't follow up on this, I kind of go, there's probably a reason why. All right, I'll move on. But those 4 things, faith, family, friends, and fun, that's my priorities right now. That is #my tribe.
It's really interesting that you say that, because I think sometimes people have to come through some kind of life-altering experience. You have had it. Jenn and Asif as a couple have had it. I have had it as well, where you can cut through the crap.
Oh, yeah.
Say this
Quickly.
This is a family podcast, so I won't say what I would normally say.
It is? It's a family podcast, Dr.
I don't
Kelly?
know. I was
Pretty sure I've dropped
today,
some
maybe.
F-bombs.
All right, okay. So you cut through the bullshit. And it's really easy to be able to cut through the bullshit, speak like a Canadian very directly. You just cut through it because you know there are bigger things there that you need to focus your attention on. And I think it gives us not only a gravitas, but come back to that sense of peace you talked about. And come back to that you were safe and you had courage to be able to get through whatever it is. And you know that you almost have an intuition that people think is eerie.
I've been told that, yes.
Right?
I'll
That
call and
things
check on
will
people and I'll
work
go,
out.
how did I know that?
Yeah.
How'd you know that I needed you to call, or I was having
Yeah.
a tough day? And I'm like, I can't explain it. I just ride with it now.
Yeah, I know, because the universe comes into your life in a way that you can't really explain.
Yes.
I think the universe brings people and situations into your life at a time when either you need it the most or someone else does. That's just
Absolutely.
me thinking. But when you say faith, family, fun, friends, it's really easy to contextualize everything else that's going on. You still want to be successful. You still want to provide for your family. You still want to run a really good business. You still want to help change people's lives. That didn't go away. But the stress that you put on it, and I don't mean I have stress, but the stress or importance that you put on it, it shifts.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And especially that last F, fun. Because as we get older as adults, we tend to forget how to have fun and how to be fun. So I got one really quick story for you. My son was about a year and a half, and he was at the park with my wife playing with a little kid. Tonka trucks, boys, dirt, all that. They played for about an hour. My wife said, okay, it's time to go home. Go say goodbye to your friend, right? And comes back, and she goes, so what's your friend's name? And here was the quintessential perfect response that I wish as adults we all take on now. You know what his answer was? Blue shirt. Blue shirt. He didn't care about his name. What do we do as adults? We extend a hand. We say, this is my name. This is my title. This is my company. This is what we do. He said blue shirt. He did not give a damn about that kid's name. All he cared about was he wants to play in the dirt. He wants to share his Tonka trucks. I'll share mine. And we did this. I may never see this kid again. But for right now, my best friend on the planet is blue shirt.
I love that. Oh, my God.
Blue shirt. I really like that, right? It's just giving me a thought, because what I'm thinking about is how, as people, we qualify everyone. And I really think about this in business, but it happens in life. Let's just be honest. You know, you meet someone, you ask, you learn their name, you look at what they're wearing, you look and you begin to qualify them.
And
yeah,
you see, what do they do? What level are they at? Are they worth following up with? How much respect am I supposed to show them? What's their zip code? Nobody cares about that. What I've really realized, Jen, is I have far more sunsets behind me than sunrises in front of me, and I want to enjoy every second of every one of them.
Well, and you're doing it in such a smart way, because when I think about, for example, you being, after your wife saw those recognized F.A.S.T, got you into the hospital, those people also, you were blue shirt to them too. You know what I mean? They didn't ask you, I need to know your name and who you are. They helped you. And I think that this brings us, you know, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's, then you talked about people were watching later on. Those are people helping you. So this brings us to this communal resilience, which is something that we talk about a heck of a lot here on Resiliency the Podcast, and it's why we're doing this, okay? Because why else would we do it? Everybody has a story, right? But we do it because of this power you're talking about. There is a communal power, and in order to tap into it, all you have to do is open to it. You have to be just like the kid, blue shirt. You have to accept each person as they are, and I think that there's such a beautiful message within that. And then as you're projecting that forward, you're sharing that in a way that is digestible for others. So I comment on that to say it is resilience being resilient, if that makes sense. Dr. Kelly, what do you think of that? Resilience being resilient.
I'm just going to say blue shirt from now on. I love it.
Oh, blue shirt. I dig it.
Yeah, it's just perfect. So I want to ask you a question. You talked a bit about lessons, and Jen asked you about your purpose and your survival. But today, now, going forward, what lessons are you imparting to others about the experience you've had? Like, how are you sharing that? How can people learn from you?
Thank you for that. I appreciate that question so much. There's a few things. One is, as adults, especially, excuse me, as executives, etc., we got to learn to take the mask off. I've realized that the further I went up, I got to VP, SVP in corporate. And the further I went up, the tighter that mask got. There was an expectation of how I was supposed to speak, how I was supposed to comport myself, who I was supposed to entertain and social with. No. People are people, right? Titles are just something that you put on a business card and on LinkedIn. And you've got to realize that people actually matter. And I sincerely mean that. And in no shade of politics in that. I'm just going to say people matter. Because we're so focused on increasing our IQ, it's time now to start focusing more on EQ. building relationships. And I look at social media and I go, we've all gotten less social thanks to social media, right? And so I am focused this year on less connections and more connecting with people.
Can I get an amen? I mean, please.
And the church said amen.
And the church said amen. Because that's like every marketing meeting I'm in where I'm trying to say, guys, it's not just about the number of people. It's about the quality of the interaction.
Absolutely.
And so we're talking about that quality. And so with that, I want to bring in, look, it's hard to write a book. It's even harder to make it an Amazon bestseller, man. That's like a maze of a world.
Thank
So
you.
I want to give you a quick platform because you are so giving and generous of spirit to come here and to share this. I want to give you a platform to talk for a moment about your next book, Stroke of Success, and what is it that our listeners need to be looking for in that, and what does it mean to you to be putting that out?
It means the world, because this, as my book doula says all the time, your book is not for you. It is in service of others. This book is not just about my stroke. Yeah, it's a small component. It's literally about resilience. It's about determination. It's about grit. But it's also about learning how and some tips and best practices of how to treat you well. I've realized over life is the things that we say to and how we treat ourselves, we would never do to others. Why? Because we're taught, to your point earlier, to always put others first. No. It's not about selfishness. It's about self-care. And this book literally takes you about the journey of moving from being so focused. Look, I was, no ego said, I was an incredibly well-positioned executive. I'm flying all over the world. I've got a large team. I'm corporate jets, helicopters, blah, 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 blah. But yet at the same time, I'm in Australia and everyone's enjoying themselves. I'm missing my kids. I'm in London. I'm in Germany. I'm in Paris. And I'm like, I should be out enjoying myself. No, I'm here to work. I've got to get this done. No, take some time and enjoy life, because tomorrow, and everyone says tomorrow's not promised. Oh, this is a guy that can tell you what it's like to not have a tomorrow. And so this book literally walks you through that entire experience and gives you all of the things we're doing now. I'll give you a quick example. My daughter says that you do all this stuff and you're flying around. It's like, what do you do for fun? I looked at her and said, what is this fun you speak of, child? Right? But what it reminded me was I had no hobbies. And I also was not building a legacy. I was building a life for my family, but I was not building a legacy that they could walk away. And when I came out of the hospital, I told my wife, clear as day, I said, when I do go, whenever that is, I've got a simple rule. No one can ever talk about what they saw that did on the stage, anything I talked about on a podcast. No one can talk about the book. They're only allowed to talk about one thing: how I made them feel. That's all that matters. And now I've realized that there are people that sometimes, and when I go out, I have one goal. Whoever the waiter or waitress is, I'm going to give them a big smile before I leave, because that may be the only smile they get all day. And the same in my life. So start thinking about what impact you're having versus what influence you're having.
Think about what impact you're having versus what influence you're having. Woo! That's a, I hope that's in the book, Roderick.
I don't know where that came from, but that's going in the book.
That's some generational
that is
wisdom.
Going in the book.
Look,
I got to go add that in.
Seriously, because when you've got a population of people who think like number one dream is to be an influencer, you're right. Impact is very different than influence. And I think that is a beautiful, beautiful distinction.
Thank you.
I have a deep question I want to end on before we get to the fun stuff. We're going to go real deep
All
and
right.
then real fun. Because faith, family, friends, and fun, okay? But
There we
we're
go.
going to go to faith and then jump to fun. And so the faith part, I want to ask. You floated up in a room and watched yourself. You saw your body. You saw your mother. You see this purpose, which is connecting with people in a really real way. And I want to know, what are your thoughts on the afterlife?
It's not what I thought it was going to be. So I'll say this. I'm a PK. I'm a preacher's kid. My dad was a preacher before he passed. Yep, and I've earned it on both sides, good and bad, of being a PK. Believe me. Golden, I'm the poster child for both, good and bad. But there was a hell of a lot of fun in it, right? It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I didn't see a white light. I didn't go meandering around. I never saw my life flash before me. What it was kind of recentering for me. Because, first of all, I got a chance to see something that most people never do. And that is, you are lifeless on a bed and you've got a team of professionals working on you, and you get a chance to see what that's like. And then you get to come back and say thank you to them for bringing me back. So that afterlife to me was recentering. It also was shocking to see my mom. Right? I never expected that. I thought, okay, I'll get to the pearly gates. They'll say, yep, you've done what you're supposed to, or you had a little too much fun, buddy. One way or the other, right? And then I would go in. That wasn't the case. I never left the room. But I also felt like it was a movie that I was watching, that it wasn't really my life. I knew that was me lying there. But it felt so surreal that I'm going, is this really happening? And then it was clear as day. Now, bear in mind, I can't remember anything else that's going on in the hospital, but I can certainly have a crystal clear recollection of that afterlife experience.
And what I remember you saying is you felt peaceful and safe.
Absolutely. There was no fear. There was no semblance of fear. Fear for what? What's going to be is going to be. And clearly, wherever my mom came from, I'm going with her. So, as I said to you before we started, Jen, let's dance.
Let's dance. I dig it. Well, look, it's time to dance, Roderick. Are you ready to dance with Dr. Kelly?
Oh, let's dance.
She's a Canadian. They dance a little different up there.
I've been up there. I've been across the provinces. And speaking of, I've realized you don't really know people until you travel with them or see them dance. Because one way or other, your mind's going to change about them.
That's an excellent, it's a good interview question. Give me a dance. Let's see.
That's it.
Dr. Kelly, what do you think about our dance?
Well, I like the dance, and I'm laughing about the until you travel with people. I think that's really prescient. I've found that as well. I do a lot of traveling, and until you really travel with someone, you think you know them, but you see these other really. We all have quirks,
of course,
and man, they come out when you travel.
Yeah, the real person comes out. You get a chance to see them.
Yeah. I vouch for that. That's me. If you want to see the real Kelly, travel with her. Truly.
I don't know. It's real, but it's also the real tired Jen. So
yeah.
Schedule some alone time on your trips.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a must.
Exactly. But Roderick, I want to know, what's your favorite movie or TV show that makes you feel resilient?
House. Why? Because he's the superhero that, because he cares enough to think about the person in front of him, although he's an ass, don't get me wrong, but because he cares enough about that person, he finds things that no one else did. I look at my neurologist and my cardiologist as my version of House.
I like that.
Yes. And that's what you want. You want that curiosity, you want the tenacity, and you don't give a damn whether they've got a bedside manner because they're going to solve a problem.
No, I just want House.
What you want.
But he didn't show up. Yeah. The other guys did, but I'll take him.
Okay, so it's a reasonable facsimile of House is what you got. Reasonable facsimile. So that's not bad. Okay. What's your favorite song that makes you feel resilient?
Thunder by Imagine Dragons.
Oh, yeah. What's the last thing that made you laugh?
My granddaughter. We have a video of her tasting her first churro, which was supposed to be mine, that suddenly she just took over. And I was just dying crying because I saw my daughter, her mom, all over again in that moment.
Oh, I love it. My favorite part of that is it was supposed to be your churro.
It was supposed to be. I knew that. She didn't care.
Were you dipping it in chocolate?
No, we haven't made it that far. This was her first one. We wanted to see if she liked it first. Oh, she likes it,
She likes
Chocolate's
it. Okay,
next.
so now chocolate's
Fried dough.
next. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, the face of a child the first time they try chocolate is
Oh,
something
she's tried
to
chocolate.
be seen. Yeah.
Just not with a churro.
Okay, so that's gonna be extra special, Grandpa. And what's one question you'd like to leave for a future guest?
Oh, great question. What are you doing just for you today?
Oh, that's fabulous. So appropriate.
Beautiful. I love it. Roderick, I have a question for you that was left from a past guest here at Resiliency the Podcast. So here it is. How much of where you are in life was by design and how much of it was luck?
I don't believe in luck. I believe in faith and I believe in preparation. And I think when those two come together, there comes your outcome.
Spoken like a preacher's kid who's gone through a big life and learned a lot and has a lot to share.
Absolutely.
Roderick, thank you. I
you.
feel the faith, the family, the fun, and the friends and everything that you have shared. I wonder if you could please share with our listeners, where can they find you? Where can they find your book? Where can they follow you for more?
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. I always say, if you can't find me on social media, you're not trying. Because that is one thing. Although I know how it feels, but it's a necessary evil. So I'll say you can find me on my company website, which also has my book as well as blogs and podcasts previously and a bunch of freebie giveaways on there as well. And you'll find the link to my next book on there. You can find me on YouTube at Roderick Jefferson, on LinkedIn at Roderick Jefferson, on Instagram and Threads on Roderick_J_Associates. And Jen, what I'll do is I'll give you a single link tree that actually has all of it in one location to make it easy.
That would be so beautiful. And listeners, please look for that in the show notes. And please, I just encourage you, follow Roderick. As you've heard, just gems of wisdom in everyday life, and then couple that with a lifetime of sales knowledge. You can't get better, right? A corporate and an everyday man. Roderick, thank you. And listeners, thank you. Thank you for being here. If resiliency is something you're interested in, we ask that you like us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a like wherever you're listening today. It does help our effort. It keeps this movement going. You can find us at resiliencythepodcast.com or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. This is the place to find stories and strategies and inspiration on how to embrace change and overcome challenges and really redefine resilience in today's ever-evolving world. You can find me online at Jenn Quader, JENNQUADER.com, at my company, The Smart Agency, or on all the socials as at Jenn Quader. And then our illustrious leader, Dr. Kelly Culver. You can find her at culvergroup.ca. That is .ca because she is the Queen of Canada. You can also find her at Dr. Kelly Culver on LinkedIn and Instagram. And as always, my friends, thank you for listening. We wish you love. We wish you resilience in everything you do. We send you good and positive energy, and we hope that you'll tune in again for more stories about how you can stay resilient. Thanks for tuning in today.